Everybody, and welcome to this week's installment of the Weekly Hero. This is a show here on the John Campea YouTube channel where all we do is we talk about all the biggest things that's gone on in the week of superheroes when it comes to movies and television and all that sorts of good stuff. And of course, talking about good stuff, you can't do this show, of course, without one Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
You know, John, I never thought I would have as much comic book goodness coming out of my brain as we do in the days that we live in now, and it is fantastic.
It is fantastic, as a matter of fact. And actually, tomorrow on the John Campea Show, we got to talk about this. I don't know if you saw the Bob Iger. Bob Iger responded to the thing.
I talked about that today. Oh, yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow, though. But listen, guys, we do have a number of things we're going to be talking about here today that we're going to wrap up here, the things that's gone on this week. Number one, we're going to talk a little bit about the Vin Diesel Bloodshot thing. And we're going to talk a bit about the trailer, but we're also going to talk about why this movie is actually important, why this is an important film. We're going to talk about the Paul Dano casting and why this is actually such a big deal. We're going to talk a little bit about the Arrowverse. And there's something, for those of you who saw the episode of Flash last night, something in particular that happened in last night that really highlights a big issue in the Arrowverse. The Arrowverse continues to be consistent in its inconsistency about whether or not their heroes actually kill people. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But before we get into that, the first thing we're going to talk about is this. Rob, we discussed it earlier this week on the John Campea Show, which was the whole notion about we have been waiting forever. We have, it's literally been over 5 years that we've been waiting for them to actually get a Black Adam movie going. You know, it was years ago. There are people
like 1983, wasn't it?
I've had people write into me since we talked about this issue that said, John, I was a freshman in high school when they announced this, and I'm going into my sophomore year in college.
Yeah.
Right now. I mean, that's literally, that's without exaggeration. That is literally how long it's been. But anyway, we talked about earlier this week, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson finally got on Twitter and confirmed that, I believe he said it's in June. I believe he said June, they're actually going to start shooting this Black Adam movie. Which, okay, they're going to start shooting. That's great. I think we have all wanted to see Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam. We've all wanted to see it,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely, 100%.
But here's a question I have, though. Have they missed their window? Have they missed their opportunity? Because even with Shazam being it, because originally the plan was, they said originally that the plan was to have a Black Adam movie out before Shazam.
Right.
That obviously went out the window and they completely changed plans with Shazam. And Shazam, to me, now I understand I like it more than most people. I freaking love Shazam. I love that movie.
Yeah.
But even that movie, I felt like if you're going to do Black Adam, you should have been ready with an announcement for Black Adam the moment Shazam was in theaters.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, to me, you can't have Black Adam without Shazam unless you, of course, I never would have thought there would be a Joker movie without Batman. So,
but have they missed their window or is there still an opportunity here for a Black Adam?
First of all, I think the idea of Dwayne Johnson playing Black Adam, especially if you look at Alex Ross paintings, it's irresistible to see him as Black Adam. Who doesn't want to see that? And I think, look, with the goodwill, look, he's got Jumanji coming out, Jumanji 2, or is Jumanji the next level, whatever it's called, the second Jumanji, and coming on the heels of Hobbs and Shaw, which did very, very well. His star is certainly still skyrocketing across the heavens. And I think a Black Adam movie with Dwayne Johnson is an irresistible time at the picture shows, as it were. So I think I don't think we've missed any window. However, I would hope that if they're making a Black Adam movie, I mean, they left that dangling plot thread sort of at the end of Shazam. I hope Zachary Levi is involved, even if it's peripherally. I would really, because I want to see Black Adam and Shazam fight. Don't you?
I don't think you're going to get that in Black Adam's first movie, though.
I know.
I have a feeling what they'll probably do, for those of you who've seen Shazam, but it's done its theatrical run. It's been out on home video for months. If you haven't seen Shazam by now, you're not interested in it. So, but minor spoiler alert anyway. In Shazam, when the wizard, played by Djimon Hounsou, who was in 2 DC movies. He was in 3 comic book movies within 1 calendar year.
No.
He was in Aquaman, he was in Shazam, and he was in Captain Marvel. So that dude's busy. But so when the Wizard Shazam was talking about the history about how they once poorly chose a champion, that was clearly Black Adam. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit of that. I feel like that's going to be the story of the Black Adam movie. I don't know that. And then they'll wait until Shazam 2 to kind of be the crossover, if you will, by which point I fully expect that Black Adam's going to be an anti-hero. He's going to be a good guy by that point. He's going to either see the error of his ways or they're going to come up with a Maleficent thing. I really do wish Black Adam was truly going to be a villain, but with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson playing him, they're not going to do that.
Right.
He's going to, am I wrong about that? But
I think you're right, because as much as they might play him as an anti-hero where he's having fun being bad, but at the end of the day, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson wants to be the hero. He hasn't become Two-Face yet. He hasn't become the villain because he's been a hero for too long. Well, so we'll see. He's probably going to have a cosmic odyssey, as it were, and he'll probably will understand his motivation. So while he might be inclined to do perhaps questionable things, we'll know why.
Inclined? That's a t-shirt you got to make. I am inclined to do questionable things. I like that. I'd like to see that. Well, the question here is, guys, what do you think about this? They are still moving forward with Black Adam. If The Rock is to be believed, and I'm still in a place where I'll believe it when I see it, they're going to start shooting it in June. Have they missed their opportunity? Is this still a good time to do it? How do you guys feel about it? Jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to this next thing here. Another big thing happened this week that we weren't even really expecting. And that's the Vin Diesel trailer finally came out for Bloodshot. Now, it was only about a month or so ago that somebody was asking me about Bloodshot, man. And I'm like, man, I don't even know if they're still going to make that movie.
Right.
And then some people had to remind me, actually, John, they finished shooting it. I'm like, well, there you go. That's how much they've kept this whole damn thing under wraps at this point. But the Bloodshot trailer came out, and look, I am a big Vin Diesel fan. Everybody knows this. I'm a big Vin Diesel fan. I did not find, and we talked about this earlier this week, I actually personally didn't find the Bloodshot trailer all that spectacular. I thought there were some very visually interesting things,
right?
Particularly the way the nanotechnology works in them, and the visuals of that looked really good. It's an interesting concept. I'm willing to give the trailer a pass, though, because it is just a first trailer. The way I've kind of described it is kind of like just an introduction, like, hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is the Bloodshot movie. Nice to meet you. That's what I feel like this first trailer was. And then the next trailer will be them sitting down to get to know each other, a little bit. That's what I think. But Rob, what I wanted to bring up here is this. While I wasn't yet overwhelmed or overjoyed with the trailer.
Sure.
I certainly don't think it's a bad trailer. The one thing I think a lot of people have been overlooking is the importance of this movie. And I think that this Bloodshot movie, I'm not going to say it's the most important film, comic book film of all time. No, but I think this is a seriously important film. And here's why. Valiant. This is a big budget, big star, comic book driven superhero movie that we have coming out that is neither under the label of DC or Marvel.
Right.
Now, outside of Warner Brothers and Disney, we've had Sony making films, we've had Fox making films, but this is not only just not Disney or Warner Brothers, this is neither DC nor Marvel. And when you're talking about Valiant, and you're talking about characters like Manowar, and you're talking about Harbinger, and you're talking about a lot of potential people that they have lined up in their archives that could be things, I think the importance here for comic book movies fans is that if we can get this movie to work, it can open up the doors a lot for a bunch of other characters to potentially get their movies done, and maybe then convince other studios, hey, let's look at some other comic book properties. Let's look outside of the confines that we've got right now. And if this flops, it could set that whole thing back, and we might just be stuck. I love my Warner Brothers and Marvel movies, don't get me wrong, but if this thing flops badly, we could be sitting in a reality where that's all we're going to get for another little while. But anyway, Rob, I see there being a lot of importance to this movie. Am I over stressing that? Am I under, like, how do you see this?
Well, first of all, the Valiant universe is really an interesting comic universe. It was founded in the late 80s by Jim Shooter, who used to be the editor-in-chief of Marvel. So it was a big deal. And Valiant was made up of previous characters that were licensed. I don't know if they were licensed to Valiant or they were purchased, but characters like Solar, Man of the Atom, or Turok, the vampire hunter character, and Magnus, Robot Fighter. I mean, that was like a gold key comic when I was a kid. And then there were other comics like Exo Manowar and Archer and Armstrong, and what is it, Quantum and
Livewire.
Livewire, a lot of characters that made up the Valiant universe. In the late 80s and early 90s, the comics, there was a lot of really good stories in the Valiant universe. And they had a lot of they were trying to make an Archer and Armstrong movie 10 years ago for a long time. And it's great for me. I think it's great that we're seeing the first Valiant character. I mean, Bloodshot is, again, a cornerstone character of the Valiant universe, and we're seeing it made. Although what's really interesting is they're not promoting it as like the first character in the Valiant universe. I mean, they're not saying that at all. It's just like Vin Diesel is Bloodshot. And right. Yeah, no, I think you're right about that, but it's interesting because they're not even saying that it's based on a comic book character, which might be a good thing because I always am saying that, like, never don't put my Burnett axiom, don't put your universe before your characters and story. And in this case, what they're doing is they're introducing Vin Diesel, box office draw, whether he's in the Riddick movies or whether he's in the Fast and the Furious movies, most
Right.
of the Fast and the Furious movies. So he's being given a new character, and he looks like he's great in the role. The movie looks handsomely produced, even though, as you pointed out, and I've certainly pointed out, it's an amalgamation of other movies that have come out recently, including Lee Whannell's Upgrade. I mean, there's been a lot mined from the Valiant universe, and not only that, the Valiant characters are also sort of riffs on other previously existing characters. So it's interesting. I mean, I thought the movie, it looks good. I like the cast. Guy Pearce is always welcome. I love Guy Pearce. And so it looks like it's going to be a good film. And it's interesting because they're kind of like, I guess they're hedging their bets. If it does well, if it overperforms or performs at the box office, then they can say, hey, that was actually the first movie in the Valiant universe. Or if it doesn't, there's no egg on anyone's face, and they can just say, well, it was a Vin Diesel movie. It didn't do as well as we'd hoped, but and then they move on. So I think in a way, you're right. They're not selling it as part of a universe, and maybe that's for the best. They're hedging their bets, because if it does do really well and it is a really top performer, then how great is it they followed up and go, well, you might not have known this, but it is part of the Valiant universe, and that was just the beginning.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Obviously, it doesn't need to make $1 billion.
No.
But where would you think an audience response box office number would need to come in that would make you and I go, oh, yeah, they're going to move forward with more Valiant? Well, like, it doesn't need to be $1 billion, but I mean, where do you think that dollar range is, that we got to get this many people interested in the movie and this many people out to see it to really justify that we can move forward? Where do you think that dollar figure needs to fall into?
First of all, obviously, it's based on its production costs and marketing costs.
Sure,
but
yeah.
It doesn't look like, for me, let's say the movie, just for the sake of argument, let's say it costs $75 million and then there's marketing beyond that.
Right.
I would say between 425 and 500 million worldwide. That then it becomes a movie, because people now, well, Joker costs $55 million, it's going to make $1 billion. That's an anomaly. But for a movie like this, I think if it's $75 million, it doesn't look to me like it costs 100 million. But if it's 75 million plus marketing and it does 425 to 500 million, that's respectable. That's a triple. That's a base hit. They've made good money. They're deep into third base. And but because I think we have unrealistic expectations. No one thought Venom was going to do what it did, and everyone's like, well, it made almost $900 million or 850 or whatever it made. Even that's an astonishing number for a movie like Venom.
Oh, it's insane. And it's funny that you mentioned the 425 to 500. I was actually going to say 450 to 500 because you also got to keep in mind, it's not like it has to be a big monster hit. It just has to be a great introduction.
Right. Exactly.
So they come in. I honestly think if this thing comes out and if it gets half decent reviews, it doesn't have to be 90% of Rotten Tomatoes, but if it gets half decent reviews and audiences have a good time with it, this thing makes anywhere north of 400 million. I think that gives them confidence that they can use that as a starting space and then build on that from there. So it's going to be interesting.
Also, what's really interesting is, wouldn't it be interesting if you could have a shared comic book universe movie where the movies don't cost $150 million to $200 million? What if you could actually build a shared universe that's made for $100 million or less? And I think the Valiant universe done correctly. I mean, obviously they've got Vin Diesel, they've got Guy Pearce, they've got, good actors or charismatic actors. And I would think the goal would be to not compete with, like, the Valiant universe in general. It couldn't compete with Marvel or DC, but at the time when it was coming out, their books were very popular. They were telling great stories, good writers, good material. And if they could focus on creating a shared universe that isn't going to break the bank, that could still be profitable, it could be a really interesting way to go.
It could
not
be
chasing $1 billion.
It could be it could be to DC and Marvel what Blumhouse is to the big studios. Yep. Blumhouse has just made a very nice, comfortable little spot for themselves, making movies for $15 million that make $150 million worldwide.
And that's a huge profit market
for them. And I think that's what we could see. So, all right, guys, question here is, what do you think about this? Do you think maybe we're attaching too much importance to this? Because I think this could be a very, very significant movie for the future of comic book movies, as something outside DC and Marvel can actually hit pretty well with the audience. What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, let's move on to our third topic right now. And our third topic here, rounding out the wonderful world of comic book movie news and television news, is, of course, the Batman casting. Now, it started with us getting word that Jonah Hill, who was in talks for a key role in the film, that fell apart and that he was out. The next day, we hear that, I believe, world-class actor Paul Dano, who was incredible in Love and Mercy, I think he would have been considered one of the best performances of the year in There Will Be Blood if it wasn't for the fact that he just so happened to be acting alongside the greatest actor of all time, giving the greatest performance of his life in Daniel Day-Lewis in that. Because I'm telling you, I thought Dano was straight up Oscar worthy. Maybe not Oscar win worthy, but straight up Oscar consideration worthy. This guy is not what you look at Paul Dano. He does not have the traditional Hollywood superstar A-list actor look. He doesn't have that persona, but I am telling you, he is one of the best actors in the business.
Oh, I agree. I mean, the guy's amazing in everything that he's in.
And when they announced him playing Riddler, I was like, hey, I was all for Jonah Hill. I'm a multi-time Academy Award nominated actor in Jonah. I was all for him. But the way I described it at the time, Rob, was I'm not losing any sleep over Jonah Hill departing. I would lose sleep if we found out Jeffrey Wright was departing, because I think that's a killer casting for him as Gordon. But I was thrilled to hear about and I honestly I think a lot of people are sleeping on this, because when the news broke about Paul Dano, I thought this should headline everywhere. And sure enough, there were stories about it. Hey, did you hear Paul Dano, that guy from Love and Mercy? He's going to be in Batman. I think everybody seriously is underplaying this casting, because they have clearly gone for world-class talent. And I'll tell you what else, Rob, this is the thing that really got me. We talked about this on the John Campea Show last week, was that Look at where they're going with these castings. They have not been going for the big, sexy names. They've been going for straight up, pure talent. They went to Robert Pattinson, who they knew would raise some eyebrows with a lot of people who just get, oh, the Twilight guy.
Right.
But they knew he's one of the best actors working right now, and every director is lining up to work with him, and they went for talent. Jeffrey Wright is not a big superstar. Everybody recognizes his face, but not even everybody knows his name. But he's one of the best right now, and they went for him. Zoe Kravitz has just been in one of the most popular shows in the world right now in Big Little Lies, acting alongside goddesses in the world of acting with Meryl Streep, Nicole Kidman, Laura Dern.
And holding her own.
And completely holding her own and shining, acting alongside those goddesses. And now they've gone and gotten a Paul Dano. I will tell you what, I was totally happy. Like, I wanted Ben Affleck to direct a Batman movie. That's no secret. But if it couldn't be Ben Affleck, I was totally thrilled with the addition of Matt Reeves and all that kind of stuff. But I'm telling you what, it is these castings that give me a hell of a lot of faith in where they might be going with this Batman movie. Because to me, it's like, they're clearly not going for just fan service.
Right.
Like some other comic book movies do, and sometimes to great effect. They are strictly aiming for quality. And when you do that in one area of your production, like your very calculated castings, it gives me a lot of faith that you're approaching the rest of your production that way, with just a pure eye on quality. And that's why I think this Paul Dano thing has not been getting the attention it deserves. So I'm thrilled with this. What are your thoughts on all this?
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, I completely agree. I think that, my whole thing is when you're casting, I don't think we live in a world where, like in the 80s and 90s, the movie star mattered. You know, Jim Carrey was getting $20 million after The Mask and Ace Ventura to be in movies. And everything was all about the casting. But now, because we're seeing such great material on streaming and on places like HBO, it's really the overall, it's the show or the movie itself. It's the holistic approach to entertainment now. And I think it's great. So what they're doing, what Matt Reeves is doing, and what Warner Brothers is allowing him to do is going after the best actors for these roles, make it eclectic, make it interesting, and make sure that the movie itself is what's important. And while I'm sure everyone's getting a healthy paycheck, they don't have to front $20 million for a Robert Pattinson. They're like, look, man, you're going to get a lot of money, but we're signing you up for 3 of these or maybe more. And if it performs well, and we're all in this together. And I think that's the best way to approach these films. And casting Paul Dano as Riddler, what a great choice that nobody can say, oh, that sucks. I mean, you can't have how so many people would come out against, say, even Heath Ledger. Why is Heath Ledger the Joker? Why is Michael Keaton Batman?
Brokeback boy, Mr. Mom.
Yeah, no one's saying that about Dano. They're all like, wow, that's a really interesting choice if he is indeed playing Riddler. How cool is that? And that's what you want. The same was true of Zoe Kravitz. I mean, it's not like she's headlined a movie before, but everyone looks at her and goes, that's great casting for Catwoman. And that's what you want with movies like this. And I give it up to Warner Brothers. I mean, again, to see like Joker closing in on $900 million, the most successful R-rated film for something that was, well, a risk. I don't know if it was Walter Hamada. I mean, they letting Todd Phillips do this Scorsese influence thing. I mean, they good for Warner Brothers. I mean, they're really setting the tone. And not only are they setting a bar, but they're bounding beyond the bar for thinking out of the box. And I think that's great.
Guys, question here then becomes your question. What do you think? Like, are you like a lot of people? Have you been underselling and underestimating just how significant I think this casting of Paul Dano is and what that represents? Or maybe you think I'm overemphasizing it. Maybe I am. I don't know. What do you guys think about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. Last thing we're going to talk about here. Last main topic here before we get into the live questions. It's something that's been going on in the Arrowverse for a couple of years. But last night, on the new episode of Flash, it was really on display. Like, really on display. And that issue is the consistently inconsistent approach that CW has when it comes to their heroes and do they kill or not. That's is a consistently inconsistent thing with them. And the main thing I want to talk about is the thing about Arrow last night, or the thing about from the Flash last night, I should say. But like, let's look at Arrow for a moment, right? That show comes out, he is killing fools left, right, and center, right? We're scratching people off the list. And then because Tommy dies, he has this change. Oh no, I have to be a better hero. No more the killing for me. That didn't last long. And even now there are episodes in Arrow where he's like, we don't do that. Meanwhile, he rushes into a fight with his sidekicks, who two of them literally, their superpower is carrying guns. And they run into a warehouse where all the bad guys are and bang, 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 kill them all, right? So there's been a lot of inconsistency there. But last night in The Flash, and by the way, this happened in the Flash a number of times too, but oh my God, last night it was on full display in The Flash. Because here's the situation, and I'll try not to spoil it too badly for those of you who may not have seen the episode yet. But at one point in the episode yesterday, Flash and Killer Frost, who is now just going by Frost, she's taken the killer out of her name. So now she's just going by Frost. So Flash and Frost confront the villain of the week, okay? They confront what is ultimately the villain of the week. This is mid-show. And they get into combat. The villain of the week throws Flash across the room and, of course, hurting him and stuff like that. So what Frost does is Frost hits the dude with an ice blast, and the dude goes flying out a window and falls like 20 stories. Now, he gets up and runs away because he's all buffed up. But Flash is like, Frost! What are you doing? She's like, he's fine. Yeah, but you didn't know he'd be fine. We don't do this. This isn't how we do it. Like he's giving Frost a really hard time. That, we as heroes, this is not how we do things, Frost. Well, in the exact same fucking episode, just a little bit later on, Frost and Flash confront the same villain of the week again. Except this time, Flash kills him. They just do something. They know, oh yeah, let's do this. They overdose him, they just flat out kill him. No discussion, no talk. And like nobody even brought up, what about that whole lecture you gave earlier in the show about this isn't what we do? And they just straight up kill the guy. They blow him up. And I'm like, this show, this whole Arrowverse, which I like, don't get me wrong, I like it. And I very much enjoyed the episode. I did. But it really did highlight again this consistent inconsistency
right
amongst their shows about, or in one episode, the hero saying, we don't kill. 5 minutes later, he's killing the guy. I mean, it really boggles my mind a little bit. Like, so Rob, I don't know. I feel a little bit like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Well, they're trying to have, because Oliver still runs around and plants arrows deep in people's chests. But then he'll give a speech about it's not what we do. Flash says, oh, we don't kill people for us. And then he kills the guy by blowing him up. Anyway, why? I mean, they have to be aware of this. I mean, they're not stupid. They have to know, hey, aren't we sending completely mixed messages? They have to. So, Rob, let me ask you, why, when they know perfectly well that they're being so radically inconsistent, why do they do this? Why do they still bother having their heroes do the we don't kill speech and then just flagrantly kill them anyway? Why not pick one route or the other?
Yeah, I don't know if I have an answer for you on that. It's first of all, when you're dealing with superheroes fighting supervillains, the idea of death, I mean, just with Flash even doing anything to anyone, it's not going to be good if he's using his superpowers. Even if he runs around somebody at super speed, he's going to create some kind of vacuum where no one can breathe anymore. I mean, it's the idea. People are going to die. If superheroes are fighting you, someone's going to die. But they can't have somebody kill because the network probably says, you can't do that on the CW. but I think they do it
but
when
they are.
I know. I mean, first of all, I got to give it up to the CW shows, the Arrow universe, the Arrowverse this year, because one of the things I'm having really a lot of fun with is we know they're building up to Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Right.
Well, when they were originally building up to the comic series in the 80s, for a year before the Crisis comics happened, they had the Monitor and they were teasing the upcoming Crisis throughout all the books, even though readers didn't know exactly what was going on yet. Well, now we obviously know the Crisis is coming, but I really like how every episode, I've not seen last night's Flash, but the episodes have been sprinkling in the lead up to the Crisis.
Oh, it's like the seasons are all about Crisis. That's a real big difference from previous years.
Yes, and I am loving it. I think it's so cool, and it just as an old school DC fan like me, I'm totally excited by this because it just shows foresight, and they've really thought about what they're going to do. And we've heard rumors that the Titans are going to be in the crossover. I'm like, really? I mean, well, that would be cool. I don't know if we'll have to wait and see, but if they could get, even if they're in it for a shot, or they get, hey, why don't you come down and film the Crisis for us? I mean, it's gonna be fun. Come up to Vancouver, whatever they're gonna do. I'm really excited. But the idea of killing people, like you said, it's very inconsistent, and I think they don't want to admit that superheroes are whether they want to or not, inadvertently, people are gonna die when superhuman beings or metahumans are having melee rounds in the middle of urban environments. We threw him off a building. He didn't die this time, but people are going to die because superpowers are, I mean, hell, John, you get in a bar fight, you can have your nose jammed into your brain and die.
You get punched the wrong way, a dude could die. But especially with Arrow, like there's so many times I've seen an Arrow where they're going after the big bad guy, whether it's Diaz or whoever, they're going after the big bad guy, and they're like,
right.
They have this big conversation beforehand. We can't kill him because once you cross that line, there's no coming back. But then 5 minutes later, as they're pursuing the big bad guy, they slaughter 7 of the bad guy's henchmen.
Right.
No problem, because they come in with their guns, bang, 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 you're dead. So but we can't cross that line with him. Oh, but with these nobodies? Yeah, they're completely expendable.
I know.
Shoot him in the face. Shoot him in the face, which I'm fine with. As long as they don't have this, we can't cross that line speech. Right. Like, pick a side and go, I don't know, guys, what do you think? Am I over-exaggerating this? But I think it becomes distracting for me from the shows when 1 minute they're saying, no, we can't kill them. And then the next minute they're like, without a second thought, just killing the dude. Anyway, what do you guys think about that? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. Hey, listen, for the rest of the show here, we're going to go over and take your live questions. You guys have been using the Super Chat feature and sending in questions. So let's jump over there and start taking those questions from you guys. The first one comes to us from Laugh Warehouse, who writes, does Justice League have a war cry like Avengers Assemble? I've never heard one, Rob.
I don't think they really do.
Although the best war cry of any superhero ever, the Tick. Spoon! To me, that is the greatest running into war cry ever. Okay. Ben Rayner writes, really digging Arrow, Flash, and Batwoman this season so far. I'm loving Arrow this season. No BSing around, just Oliver kicking ass. I haven't seen the latest episode. I haven't seen the newest episode, but I really liked the start of the season for Arrow.
Yeah.
Except for his stupid fucking kids. I hate their flash forward. That flash forward stuff is so stupid, and it just takes away from the good stuff they're doing with the other thing. But Arrow, and I must admit, I still haven't watched episode 2 of Batwoman. I thought at best Batwoman was okay, the first episode, and I just haven't been motivated to watch the second episode. Have you watched beyond episode 1 yet?
I liked it.
How is it?
I mean, I kind of like what they're doing with the Batman mythos and how they're playing on them. Look, it's a new show, and we got Ruby Rose as part of a crossover last year. I mean, literally, it's I've seen 2 episodes. I haven't seen the third. There's a third episode out, right?
I believe that a third's out now, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen the third one. But I thought they're doing a pretty okay job. I've really liked that character when she was introduced in the comics. And look, they're building. It's a new show. I guess now it's 3 episodes, but I think it's very respectable and certainly fits right in with the CW, and I'm excited to see where they're going to go with it.
I'll get
and
caught up.
How it's all going to work in with the Crisis. That's the thing I'm most excited about. I'm really excited about this season. I think I'm more excited about all the CW shows than I have been ever because of, I mean, last year's crossover was great, but as an old school DC fan, this Crisis on Infinite Earths has me all Ghibli.
The one thing I'm interested in with Batwoman is that when she was introduced last year, she had already been Batwoman for a while.
Right.
And now with this show, we're obviously further back in time because it's her origin. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bring that all up to speed. Ryan Trabuco writes, Jon Favreau and Bob Iger offered comments recently on the recent criticism of Marvel films. I haven't seen Favreau's comments. I did read Bob Iger's, but I'm going to withhold most of my commentary on that until tomorrow's John Campea show. But when the boss speaks, you stop and listen. When the boss speaks, and it's nice that Iger actually decided to enter the fray on that. And ultimately, but you talked a little bit about that a little bit earlier too.
Yeah.
Did you hear Favreau's comments? I don't know what Favreau's comments were.
Basically, Favreau said they're entitled to their opinion. You know, he was very diplomatic about it, and he's right. I mean,
Bob Iger was less so.
Yeah, he was.
All right, Ryan also writes, I'll never forget my own experience watching The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, etc. But I'll also never forget the crowded opening night experience of that third act of Endgame. The cinema experience is just that, an experience. If I can walk away feeling something after watching a movie, that's what makes the whole movie-going experience worth it. Just my thoughts. Here's some more of my casino winnings from the slots, by the way. Thanks, John and Rob. What do you think about Ryan's comments there?
I think it's great. I mean, you know, it's funny because it's weird. It's weird to be put in a position like just like what Ryan said. I mean, when I was watching Infinity War, even when I was watching the first Avengers, but Infinity War, my jaw was agape. I think I sat there slack-jawed most of the movie because I couldn't believe what I was watching. And with Endgame, sitting in that theater, I think I saw Endgame with you. We were at Disney, weren't we?
Yeah, we went to Disney a lot to watch it.
That audience was so energized, and it was, you know, a bunch of jaded movie pundits and everything, and people were just, you could feel the excitement in the crowd. And it's not like when I go see Avengers Endgame, they gave us the best version of whatever that was going to be in my imagination. I got it, you know, and at the end, when the portals open, I'm just sitting there like, talking about being Ghibli. I'm sitting there like a little kid. I can't believe what I'm seeing. That said, you know, when I saw Apocalypse Now, I was younger, but when I saw Apocalypse Now, I think I was 12 when I saw it in the theater. It was equally mind-blowing in a different kind of a way. I was in the middle of an existential 12-year-old crisis watching Apocalypse Now. What does it all mean, man? But it still affected me. You know, and as a middle-aged dude now, to be able to watch a comic book movie and have to feel like a kid again, isn't that important? Doesn't that matter? And what's amazing is cinema is so diverse. You can watch a slasher movie, you can watch an action-adventure movie, you can watch a martial arts thriller, you can watch a comic book movie, you can watch a movie like Taxi Driver, and it's all cinema. And it's all, that's what why cinema is so exciting, is because there's so many different things that you can watch that mean something to everyone. Like we always joke, I was talking about Tough Turf. Tough Turf is not a great movie. It is a goofy 80s teen film that feels like a 50s gang movie. No one has any guns. People spray paint each other, and it's supposed to be bad. But I love it anyway. And I'm sure someone would come along and go, you know, Rob, why do you like that movie? It's not very good. But all cinema is fun in some way, shape, or form. It's what you take with you into it, right? Like Luke in the cave.
They look, and none of us are, look, if, again, none of this is an issue. If Scorsese and Coppola just came out and say, the Marvel films, I think they stink. Okay.
They haven't even seen them.
I know, that's the thing. But it's been this prolonged, coordinated campaign against these things are invaders. They're taking over our theaters, which they're not. I'm sorry, but numbers prove they're not. They're despicable. Look, if they just come out and said, the movies, they stink. They're not for me. I don't like them. None of us are talking about it then. Then none of us are talking about it because that's just their opinion. It's perfectly fine. But it's just too bad we've been talking about this for so many days. All right. Murray Reich writes, It's such a shame that every time I watch Arrow, I'm forced to skip the stupid flash forward scenes. They have nothing to do with the main story. Get rid. Oh, dude, Murray, my brother, you are preaching to the proverbial choir, my friend. Amen and alleluia. I do not care about Oliver's stupid kids. I really don't. I didn't mind his son when he was a kid in the show. That gave an interesting new angle to it. But these flash forward things are just, oh God, they suck. Patrick Conway writes, I wish Arrow just focused on the OG Team Arrow. Yeah, there was, I don't know about you, Rob, but to me, and there are redeeming things about the Arrow show now, absolutely. And I like the first episode this year, the first couple, but to me, Arrow as a show was running at top capacity when it was Oliver, Diggle, and Felicity. When it was just that triumvirate.
Yeah.
When it was the three of them and Oliver was on his mission of the names in his father's book. I thought they moved on from that a little too quickly. You know, I thought that's something that easily could have gotten you 3 or 4 seasons.
Right.
But they moved on from it pretty fast, and then they started bringing in all the different characters, and then they brought in the new round of characters with Mr. What's his name? Mr. Fantastic? No, Mr. Spectacular, Mr. Wonderful, Mr. I can't remember his name. I like the actor.
Terrific.
Mr. Terrific. I like the actor very much. The dude's very cool. But you know, dude with a goalie face mask who thinks he's in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Wild Dog.
But he's got the guns. I got guns. Bang bang. I don't know. And there again, I don't want to pretend like there's no redeeming qualities about those characters. There are. I've actually enjoyed some of their story arcs as well. But It's just that to me, that's when Arrow was at its best. When it was more simplified, it was a man on a mission with two teammates that help him out and support him along the way. There was something more pure, something a little bit better about the show that I liked more at that period of time. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Because it was more simplified and stripped down in terms of storytelling. You know, it's more basic. I find that that's always better. Unless you're doing Game of Thrones with a gigantic cast of characters, especially on a superhero show. You like the interplay between characters, but it gets diluted after a while, and there's only so many stories that you can tell. And when you like and you have a core dynamic that works, and for whatever reason it has to go away, it's hard to capture that kind of cohesive magic, and it's tough.
I like the way you put that. The cohesive magic.
The cohesive magic of a good cast.
Jesse writes, if Thor and Loki's last name is Odinson, does that mean Odin's name is Odinson? No. That's more of a title.
Yeah.
Thor, Odinson. Odinson is really more the title than anything else. But Odinson. Nice to meet you. Patrick Conway writes, rewatch Captain America Winter Soldier. Still the most badass superhero movie, in my opinion. Makes hyped me for Black Widow and Falcon and Winter Soldier, especially the action. I still remember walking out of seeing Winter Soldier for the first time and being like, what did I remember I was actually with Roth Cornett. I saw the movie with Roth Cornett, and I remember we walked out of theater, and I remember I turned to her and I said, what did we just watch? It was so profoundly different. Like, it was so very much a comic book movie in many, many ways, and yet so profoundly different from anything we had seen before. It was truly, like, we had heard Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers say, there's very much a 70s political thriller element to this movie. Yeah, sure. There really is. Now, I don't know if that makes me think that, just because they did that with him, they're going to do that with Black Widow. I don't know. I don't know that they're going to be able to carry that over into Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm very much looking forward to that show, but I don't know. But, dude, you ain't wrong, man. That's a special movie, Rob.
Dude, remember the beginning? I mean, first of all, there's this scene with Sam Wilson when they're running around, they're jogging around
On
the
your
track.
left.
And then, which is so good. And then that action scene when Black Widow and Captain America and the rest of S.H.I.E.L.D. attack that boat.
With George St. Pierre,
man,
as the leaper on that. Yep.
That action scene kicks ass. And, you know, you're like, wow, this is awesome. Because it's not, I mean, while Spider-Man, while Captain America is a super soldier, Black Widow, they just take this boat. It was like a team working together to take out this boat. It was so good. And then Captain America gets in that knockdown, drag-out battle. I mean, it's awesome.
With Bartok, the leaper.
Oh, it was so good. And you look at it and you're like, this is different. You know, this is different. This is some real world stakes. It just felt more immediate and more, it had more verisimilitude. You know, it was good. I loved it.
I just, right from the beginning of that too, when he's having the conversation with Black Widow on the plane about his dating life, and then he jumps out and the one guy turns to the other, did he have a parachute? And the guy's like, no, he did not. It was just a great moment for a great movie. Anyway, Jared McBride writes, hello, John and Rob. I am so excited for the Arrowverse crossover. It's going to be epic. Well, I know you're excited about it, Rob. I know you've been really pumped about this.
I'm all Ghibli, like a little kid.
The one thing I'm worried about, and I've expressed this before, because I've always enjoyed the Arrowverse crossovers every year. Some years are better than others, but I've always enjoyed them. My only fear is that they're just going for pure straight up fan service with a lot of stuff without a lot of thought to their narrative. Because you hear, oh, now we're adding this person, now we're adding that person, now we're adding this person. And then you even hear from Lex Luthor, Michael Rosenbaum, saying, yeah, they just hit me up and said, we need an answer tomorrow. And I'm like, no. I mean, so that, I'm not saying that means it's not going to be great. I'm just saying that's the one thing that gives me a little bit of apprehension about, do they actually have a fabulous story to tell? Or is this going to be, look, everybody, it's the original Superboy. Look, everybody, it's the original Clark Kent. Oh, look, everybody, remember that 90s show, Birds of Prey? There's the girl from Birds of Prey. I'm just a little bit worried they might do that. Do you think there's anything to that, or do you think they're just going to use it well?
Here's the thing. Like in the original Crisis, the Crisis opened with Earth 3, where the only superhero was Alexander Luthor, and that the crime syndicate with Owlman and Ultraman, not Owlman, I think Owlman, and Power Ring, the evil Justice League. And you saw, it was just a few pages, and you see that Earth get destroyed. And all these, I mean, these characters have been around for a long time, but so I'm thinking that a lot of these characters might just have a couple of scenes where we see their Earth and their Earth gets destroyed to establish what the Anti-Monitor is doing. So I think a lot of it might be that, but that's okay with me. Like, I would love to see some scene with Burt Ward, who's, what is he, 80? You know, Burt Ward, the original Robin from the 60s. However old he is, whatever he's doing, I mean, it would be really melancholy if we see a scene with him, if it opens with him, like maybe he's reminiscing about his days with Batman, and then his Earth, the antimatter wall comes crashing through, and that's the end of him.
Do they have him looking at a picture of Adam West on the wall?
Something like that. And then, you know, there's nothing he can do. He realizes, and even if he said something like, wow, if it was only 40 years ago, maybe there was something I could do, as this antimatter wave rolls over him and eliminates his Earth. Even if they just do quick scenes like that, I'll be crying.
Did you see the picture of the Anti-Monitor, by the way, that they're using?
I mean,
he looks like the Night King.
Yeah, he does. He does. And the Anti-Monitor in the original comic was like gigantic, and it's sort of weird to see. I mean, I know the way they're portraying him, I'm sure he'll grow and we'll see him in different incarnations, but I thought it looked cool. You know, you have to have these characters in some kind of humanoid form so they can interact with the other characters. I'm stoked, man. I'm all in. I can't wait.
All right, Patrick Conway's writing, is Taskmaster basically Marvel's Deathstroke? Of course, that's going to be, at least that's what we suspect, is going to be one of the main villains in the Black Widow movie. How would you describe that, Rob?
That's not a bad way to put it. He's kind of the same kind of character. I could see that. I mean, I think Deathstroke has a lot more weight, and he's been around and he's been incorporated into the DC universe a lot more, especially in the comic universe. I'm a huge Deathstroke fan. I loved him in Titans. I even when he spun off into his own series, and of course he's been such a mainstay in television. And I really wanted to see a Justice League movie where he was a big character, not just in that end scene.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what, Manu Bennett was other than Oliver himself. I honestly think Manu Bennett as Deathstroke was the best thing in Arrow.
So good.
And they made such a horrible mistake telling them, no, we've got Deathstroke in the movies now, so you can't use him in TV. Then what the hell's the point of having two separate universes? Anyway, yeah. I'll never understand that. Suthius writes, hey, gents, my Iron Studios Endgame Thanos came in. Wow.
Oh.
That thing is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do me a favor, Suthius. Can you email me a picture of it? I would love to email me a picture of it out of the box. I'd like to see that.
I can't go down. People are always going, are you going to buy it? I look at that Iron Studio stuff. I can't go down that rabbit hole.
It's so expensive. The Iron Studio stuff is.
Can't do it, but I love it.
Amazing.
So amazing.
Suthios also writes, Dibney called the Monitor the Asgardian cosplayer. Yeah, that was, I noticed that. So Dibney what elongated man is what they call him in the show. Ralph Dibney. He, he referred to Monitor as the Asgardian cosplayer, right, which did not go over my head. I mean, I did catch it. I thought that was kind of a funny line. Movie Pop writes, seen Tenet bootleg trailer. Looks dope AF. If you're talking about the one that actually played in theaters, just that short little one, I have seen that. Unless you're talking about some new, I haven't heard about any new trailer. Have you, Rob?
Me neither. No, but bring it on. Where is it? What Reddit thread do I have to go to now?
If you're talking about the one that was already in theaters, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't.
If it wasn't Christopher Nolan, then we wouldn't be talking about it. I thought it was okay, right. But if you're talking about a new one, then I haven't seen that yet. Corbin C writes, Dano was great in Swiss Army Man. Whenever I think of Swiss Army Man, I always think of Daniel Radcliffe as the
dead guy.
Suthius also writes, speed and moral compass inconsistent. It's annoying. Yeah, the speed is also inconsistent. The moral, no, I never have a problem with their moral compass. It's just the one singular issue. They always seem to have a pretty good moral North Star on almost everything. And they're usually pretty consistent with that. It's just that one issue of, can we kill life-threatening villains? That's the one thing they seem to be inconsistent about. Farky50 writes, I like that name. Farky50 writes, do you like violence in Titans? I love the show. I don't like the show at all. I don't get me wrong. I didn't think Titans season 1 was terrible, but I didn't think it was very good. And so I gave the whole season a chance, despite the fact that they shoot it in my hometown of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Despite that, I'm not going to watch season 2. I gave you a whole season, did not work for me. And Doom Patrol, on the other hand, was brilliant, but I have not. Have you seen any of Titan season 2?
Oh, yeah. And here's the thing, this is going to seem weird, but the Titans should be the Friday Night Lights of superhero TV.
You've said that before. I like that. Yeah.
Because the comics were inherently, at least the Wolfman Perez run, the run I fell in love with, was really about the goodness. And look, they had bad stuff happen. Trigon, and there was a lot of what happened with Deathstroke. The whole storyline with Terra and all that. But still, the characters were inherently good people, and it wasn't the mood, the tone of the show was relatively upbeat, even when the world was coming to an end. And it doesn't have to be naive, but I feel that Titans is unnecessarily dark. And does it have to be that way? Like, it seems to me it's trying to be hip and cool. And I'm like, why?
I just remember the first trailer for Titans. Fuck Batman. Ooh, look how edgy and dark we are, everybody.
I don't think it's ever recovered from that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, when I finally saw the episode, I'm like, okay, in context, that line doesn't come across as cheesy as it did in the trailer. There was a terrible choice for that. But again, I watched the show. I just didn't think it was that good.
Well, now they were voting on, should we kill the Jason Todd Batman just like they did
in the comic books?
Yeah, just like they did in the comic books. And it's like, really? We're now voting on whether we should kill a comic book character? I mean, it was controversial when they did it in the comics, but I get what they're doing. They're paying homage to their past.
Yeah. All right. Aviator 98.6 writes, regarding the killing inconsistencies, the writers are probably reminding the audience that their hero is still the good guy. It's like a mind reset. But here's the problem, Aviator. You're not making that point if they say, we don't do this, and then he immediately does it.
Right.
It's not a mind reset. That's the thing. It's cool. Go one way or the other. Look, I'm cool if they want to say Flash never kills. I don't think that's realistic, but if that's the way you want to go, fine. I'm okay if Arrow decides I'm never going to kill. You shoot metal spiked arrows at people, you might end up killing somebody even if you don't mean to, but fine. If you want to do that, I'm fine with it. It's the inconsistency that causes a lot of confusion. It's like, look, either say they're cool with it only under the most extreme circumstances, or say that they're not. Just this thing of, in the same episode going, no, we can't do that, Killer Frost. And then 20 minutes later, hey, how do we kill this guy? Let's do this. Okay, dead.
Right.
They just got to fix that, I think. All right, Suthius writes, let's see. Odin's last name is Borson. His father's first name was Bor. Whatever your father's name is, just add on son at the end, and that's your last name. So I would be Giovanni Pasquale's son. That would be my name. What would yours be, Robert?
I would be Richard Burnett's son. I guess.
Robert Richard Burnett's son. There you go. I like
Richard Burnett's son.
Gorgia Skywalker writes, greetings. I watched a Mandalorian press conference and Dave Filoni said that George Lucas believes streaming is the future of Star Wars. Thanks. Well, doesn't really matter what George Lucas thinks. Look, I will forever worship at the altar of George Lucas. He's one of the greatest of all time, but it doesn't really matter what George Lucas thinks at this point. Nick writes, where are we at here? I've heard that a couple of characters from DC's Titans are going to cameo in Crisis. In total, I think this means Crisis will have more actors than Endgame. I don't buy it. Like, I'm not willing to put money on it that it's not going to happen.
Right.
So look, anything's possible. They're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at this thing, but I personally don't buy it. I haven't seen anything credible that says it's happening. I've also heard it said that Lucifer from the TV show Lucifer is going to pop up. I don't buy it, but I'm not willing to put money against it.
How cool would it be if he did, though?
It'd be pretty freaking badass if he did.
Yeah, I know,
I love
right?
Lucifer, but again, I don't buy it. But I think it's plausible enough that I wouldn't bet money against it. But until I see it happen, I doubt it. But so we'll see what happens. All right, Lone Wolf X6 writes, the best Arrow villains, Merlin, Prometheus, and Deathstroke. I think Deathstroke by 1.5 miles.
Yeah, me too.
Prometheus was pretty good. Prometheus came around when the show was struggling, but also I keep forgetting the name of the character. I think it was Diaz. Was it Ricardo Diaz? Was the name of the character?
Yeah,
but anyway, they called him the Dragon or something. I'll tell you what, there was an episode of Arrow that was one of the best, not the best episode they've ever done, but one of the best episodes they've ever done that was just on him. Like, he was already the established bad guy, but then they did this episode that was kind of an origin story of him, and then really just followed him for the episode. And there was actually very little Arrow and very little of the heroes. And it was one of the best episodes they had ever done.
Well, that's cool.
And so I thought he was actually a pretty good one too. And then Nick writes, is Black Lightning only CW show not in the Arrowverse? Look, my understanding is, look, when they started Black Lightning, they never referenced anything in the wider CW Arrowverse. But lately, towards the end of they started doing a little bit of name dropping. And so I believe they're starting to suggest that it is. And I believe he is in the crossover. Black Lightning is in the crossover. I've seen set pictures. So there is that. Do you know anything more about that beyond that?
No,
Rob?
I just heard that he was in the crossover as well. It's funny. I'm a big fan of, I would say it's goofy. There was a goofy Batman comic in the 80s that was drawn by Jim Aparo and written by Mike Barr called Batman and the Outsiders.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah, the Outsiders were a super team. They had characters like Halo and Katana that was in Suicide Squad. But ever since they've started a Black Lightning show, I keep waiting for them to announce. They probably wouldn't put Batman in it, but I would love to see an Outsiders TV show. And I would love to see that classical lineup using, of course, Black Lightning and spinning it off from there. I please do that, Greg Berlanti. Make my dreams come true.
I do like this show. I do like Black Lightning quite a bit.
Yeah.
Ben Rayner writes, I'm starting to think Tom Welling will only be on Crisis just to die. Over under 25% that this is the case. Whoo! I'll go over 25% that he dies in it. I don't think he's just in there to die, but I wouldn't go over 50%. Like, I don't think it's likely, but 25% is pretty low. I'll go over 25% that he dies in it.
I'm with you. Like, how about a scene with Lois and Clark, you know, and you see them on the farm, or Superman's flying her somewhere, and then that antimatter wall comes, that the anti-monitor, when he's destroying the Earths, and you could see Superman finally happy, blissful with Lois on the farm or whatever, and then they get toasted. I mean, I could see them even opening it with that.
And look, I think you're going to see a lot of people, because look, I think there's a 30% chance that they're going to use this Crisis crossover to get rid of the multiverse.
Well, that's what the Crisis is all about.
That's what it was in the comic books. It was to try to. They realized things were getting unruly. They wanted to simplify the storylines and whatever. And I think they're going to carry that over into this, and they're going to get rid of the stupid multiverse in the Arrowverse and bring it back down to just one reality. And we'll see how that goes. All right, last question of the day, guys. This one comes to us from Mad1306, who writes, so, are we going to hear any news on Flash or New Gods? Well, there was actually some news on both fronts not long ago. They just attached a new director for Flash not that long ago, and they just announced a couple of months ago now. But they brought on a screenwriter for New Gods to work with Ava DuVernay on it. And I'm trying to remember
Tom King.
Was that who it was? Right. So they brought
Tom King, who wrote this.
There you go. Look, I still am not sure that this New Gods movie is even going to happen. I'll be honest. I just don't think it's going to happen. And it might. I'm not willing to put money against it. It might. But
I think they're going to wait and see what happens with Eternals. If Eternals is huge, maybe New Gods will be next.
Maybe. As far as Flash goes, who knows? I mean, remember, that movie was supposed to be in theaters already.
Right.
So let's see it. And no, they're still, the official line is that Ezra Miller is still Flash. That's the official line. I don't believe he is. I don't believe he is.
The Justice League hot toy of Ezra Miller as Flash has dropped. You can get it.
And by the way,
I don't have it yet.
I like Ezra Miller's Flash.
I do too. I love the guy. He's great.
I thought he was really great. I enjoyed his take on the character. I really did. But I don't think he's going to be Flash anymore. I really don't. Yeah. I might be wrong. Again, just me speculating, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, guys. That'll do it for this week's installment. The final page has been turned. The ink is dried. That's it for this issue of The Weekly Hero. Thank you guys so much for being here and talking some superhero movies and TV stuff with us. And of course, want to thank the wonderful Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations.
And then, of course, we will see you on Friday on the John Campea Show as well. Of course, tomorrow, Chris and Aaron are going to be in. It says Aaron calls it No Pants Thursdays tomorrow, so she'll be in here for that. Guys, thank you all so much for being here and making this part of your day today. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did too. That'll do it for this week's installment of The Weekly Hero. Thanks so much, guys. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.